Well, welcome to the webinar, everyone. Another Wednesday, another opportunity to learn. My name is Mark Bennett. I'm the COO of ID Life, and I'm happy that you've decided that you want to join us today. Today's topic is all about salt. The problem isn't in the shaker. And what we're going to learn today is just that. So many people, when they finally decide they want to reduce their salt consumption, usually because of a medical recommendation to do so, they do so by trying to focus on the shaker or the salt container or adding the salt to the food and things of that, thinking that they're actually addressing the problem. And what we're going to find out today is that doesn't even scratch the surface. So let's just jump right in. First and foremost, we have a snacking addiction in this country. We are addicted to our snacks, literally addicted to them. Any number of reasons why. We could talk about the addictive quality of sugar, which has been shown to be just as addictive as cocaine, with regard to its brain reaction when we consume it. But we have just as strong an addiction to salt. It is just as powerful. In fact, that snacking craving or that addiction that we have is leading to some pretty major numbers. When you look at the average consumption of snacks in this country by men, we're now at 586 calories. By women, we're at 421 calories. I want to make sure people see this number. This is supposedly a snack. We could refer to this as the American fourth meal of the day. It has truly gotten out of hand. It is a large contributor to our weight-related issues. That's why 74% of people in this country are overweight. It's a large contributor to the obesity epidemic that we have in our children. But the reality is we really do have a snacking problem, and a lot of that's related to the addictions that we have to salt and or sugar. But it goes beyond that. Salt can also be found in the stuff that we're buying in a grocery store. In all these processed foods, it is full of salt. That is the main preservative. That is the main taste factor, especially in things that say things like light, fat-free, reduced fat, and things of that nature. Salt is a key contributor to taste and why we continuously buy these things in the store. We're buying these boxes, bags, jars, and cans because they're convenient, they're easy, they're quick. They're not the only ones. We also have our fast food addictions, and those fast food addictions are loaded with salt. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people, though, that forget about another major contributor to our salt consumption, and they think it's safer because they think when they go out to restaurants that, the salt, because it's being cooked, is lower. The reality is this: most studies have found that restaurant food actually contains more salt in it than fast food. I want to make sure everyone hears that. Most studies that have looked at this issue have found that restaurant food actually contains more salt than the fast food. Lots of reasons, lots of contributing factors to that. But mainly it's because you're getting processed food that is then being cooked and the other ingredients are being added to it, and usually those other ingredients include salt. So you take the processed food that we already get in the boxes, bags, jars, and cans in the store, or that you get in the fast food, and then you're adding additional ingredients and spices and things to it, which is contributing to even more salt. So be wary of this, because the reality is this: our average caloric intake in this country is over 2,500 calories a day. Now, that is leading to all kinds of issues, disease. It's leading to all kinds of obesity-related concerns. It's leading to the childhood obesity epidemic that we have in this country. It's leading to the diabetic explosion that we have in this country. I mean, just last year, UCLA did a study and found that over 55% of Californians are either diabetic or pre-diabetic, which was shocking to a large number of the people that look at these types of things. The reality is this: we have to reduce this. But today we're not here to talk about calories. We're not here to talk about the effect of all these things. What we're here to talk about is salt. And what you need to know is that on average, more than 80% of the American diet comes from processed food, fast food, and restaurant food. So let me let this set in for a second. More than 80% of our diet, the stuff that we consume on a regular basis, comes in a bag, box, jar, or can, or through a bag through our car window, or at a restaurant that we go out to, which means only 20% of our meals are actually eaten. And this is the American average, but only 20% of our meals are eaten by food that was actually prepared and cooked by us. Everything else was cooked, prepared, or processed by someone else. This is the major issue. And the reason why we identify this is because we just showed you that a major contributor of all the salt that we're consuming are in these foods. So when we talk about, the salt shaker isn't enough, this is part of the main reason. See, we have an addiction to salt, but we also have an addiction to sugar, and these two are added together. When you're talking about these types of foods, when we take things out, these are the two main culprits of things that are added back in. And we've talked about sugar before, but salt is the thing that I think is what we're probably going to end up referring to at some point as the silent killer. It's a thing people just don't pay attention to, and the whole purpose of today is to give you an education so that you can make an informed decision, but more importantly, better understand the issue. See, 9 out of 10 Americans consume excessive amounts of salt. 9 out of 10 daily. Every single day in the U.S., 9 out of 10 of us will consume amounts of salt that exceed the recommended amounts. Now, that is contributing, if you look at it by demographic, to 95% of men and 75% of women doing this. So women are a little bit better than men with regard to their salt consumption, but still, 3 out of 4. And guys, we're the biggest contributor here. We're the ones that are really, loading up on the salt, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that we actually consume more calories, and we don't watch our health as well as the ladies do. Ladies, do remember though, the New York Times did report last year that for the first time in history, that women are now the heavier sex. For the first time in history, women actually now are more overweight than men on average in this country. So, be cognizant of that. So what is recommended daily? What should we be consuming? Well, all we need is 180 milligrams. That's what we need. So when we talk about the need for sodium, because there is a need for sodium, there is salt that we need in our body. It is something that we require to function properly. We only need 180 milligrams. Recommended is 1,500 milligrams. The upper level of the recommended chart is 2,300 milligrams, but the American diet, our daily consumption, is exceeding over 3,400 milligrams. So we are exceeding 2 times the amount of sodium on a daily basis than we are required to, or recommended to have, not even required. If you look at the requirement, it's excessively more than that, so almost 20 times. So we have to understand what a teaspoon milligram conversion is, because in this country, we continuously teach the wrong things. We're teaching the empirical system, so people don't understand the conversion table. This is the thing. 1/4 of a teaspoon is 575 milligrams. 1/4. So in other words, 3/4 of a teaspoon, roughly, is more than your total amount recommended in an entire day. Now think about this the last time you added salt to food. Think about the last time you created a recipe in your house and you were cooking for yourself or even cooking for others. How much salt did you actually put in there? So your total daily consumption from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed is less than 3/4 of a teaspoon. In fact, just one teaspoon is 2,300 milligrams of salt. See, you don't need a lot to get the effect, but unfortunately in this country, we're of the mindset, if a little bit's good for me, more must be better. So as a result, we have a tendency to overdo it on most things. So if you are a cooker, if you are one that likes to make your own meals, I applaud you for that. But please be cognizant of not only the ingredients that you're using, but also the amount of salt that you're adding to the food. And the reason why I say that is because a lot of times if you're using ingredients that are coming from a can, a box, a jar, or a bag, they already have the salt in them. You very well may not have to add more salt to it in order to get the flavor and or the effect that you're looking for. So be really cognizant of that when you're cooking. So, the leading cause of excess salt consumption in the United States is the shaker, right? Well, no, we've already dispelled that. We know that's not the case. In fact, the leading cause by a lot is from processed foods. 75% comes from the processed food industry. And that's what we're eating on a daily basis. This is the food that we eat. Normally because it's easy, it's convenient, it's quick, because we just don't have the time being the biggest culprit that we have, to cook anymore. So as a result, this is what we're getting, and that's where most of it's coming from. In fact, if you really look at the stats and you want to see the source, 77% of the salt that we consume comes from the processed and prepared foods that we eat, 12% naturally occurring in the food that we consume, 6% added while eating, and 5% added while cooking. So what does all that mean? Well, what that means is if you remove the salt shaker, in other words, you don't use the salt shaker at all. You basically throw it away, eliminate salt from the house. You're only removing 11% of the problem. That's it, 11%. 89% of the salt that we consume on a daily basis comes from the food sources that we're choosing to put in our mouth. The wonderful hand-to-mouth disease, our hand finding our mouth way too often with the wrong thing, which is the leading cause of disease in this country. But 89% of the salt that we consume on a daily basis is coming from those foods. So even if we eliminate this, which, hey, I recommend that we all do, the fact is it's only affecting 11% of the problem. What are the largest contributors? These are them. This is where we get a large portion of our salt. It's from the breads we eat. It's from pizza, which is a staple food in America. It's from poultry. Most chicken breast in this country are infused with salt water, if you did not know that, to make them bigger, plumper, and look more full so that you'll buy them in the grocery store. Sandwiches are a big contributor, mainly because of their content of both the bread and the cold cuts, because you see cold cuts in the bottom. That's your processed meats and things of that nature. And then, of course, soups. So those are the super six. Those are the ones that are loaded with it. So you want to eliminate a large portion of salt from your diet immediately. Avoid these six things, and you would be well on your way to reducing your salt consumption. So let's talk about things that you see in the store, because this can get tricky, and this is what's going to upset some people. Because when you're looking at a label, when you're trying to be cognizant of what you're doing, you need to appreciate and understand what these terms mean. So light or reduced sodium, the only thing that it means is it's 25% less than what the food normally contains. So in other words, if I create some super boxed food or bagged food or whatever you want, and I want to be able to put light or reduced sodium on it, all I have to do is have 25% less than what the original had. Now, if it's already, 5 times the amount that I should have in any given day, reducing it by 24 or 25% is not that significant, because guess what? I still have more than 4 times the amount that I should be taking. So, a little less than that. But the idea behind it is this. You need to understand that term just means 25% less than what it normally has. You still got to figure out how much sodium is in it. What does low sodium mean? Well, that means 140 milligrams or less in one serving. Here we go to that one serving thing again. We've had, sessions before where we've talked about you need to be very careful in looking at the serving size and looking at the number of servings in the food that we consume. We've seen, certain like soft drinks that have 2.5 servings for a 20-ounce bottle. Well, I don't know anybody that treats, a 20-ounce bottle as 2.5 servings. Most of them is 1. So this could literally have low sodium on the front because it has less than 140 milligrams, but the reality is what you're consuming is in excess of 300 milligrams if you take the whole thing. What's very low sodium mean? That means 35 milligrams or less in one serving. Again, it could be on the label, but you have to look at the servings to determine that. Sodium-free means that it's less than 5 milligrams of sodium. That's right. You could literally have sodium-free on an item and it still have sodium in it. So just know that. And then unsalted is no sodium added to the food. See how that got you at the end when you add the words? Unsalted means there's no sodium added to the food. Remember, the food can have naturally occurring sodium in it. 12% of our diet comes from salt that is naturally occurring. So now you know the terms. So what does salt really do to us? As far as our health, excessive salt will contribute to stroke, heart failure, osteoporosis, stomach cancer, kidney disease, kidney stones, enlarged heart muscle, and headaches. Nothing that we want, but unfortunately a lot of things that people struggle with every single day. But it also affects our appearance. It also causes us to have a puffy face. It causes bloating and irritability, and of course, it also causes weight gain because of that retention of water. So be very cognizant of the fact that there are severe health risks associated with excessive salt consumption. So why is sodium intake linked to heart disease? We hear all the time somebody with heart disease should reduce their sodium intake. Unfortunately, that's all we say. We don't show them how, and that's what these lunch and learns are about, is to try to teach people. But I'm going to simplify this down, and this really is basic, but it's basically just to show you the relationship. When we intake excess salt, that requires or causes water retention, which puts extra stress on our heart, makes it work harder. So the whole idea why sodium is related to heart disease and why reduction of sodium is always recommended for people that are suffering with high blood pressure and heart-related issues is because that excess salt is going to make us retain more water. Retaining more water in our system is going to put more stress on the heart, which is the last thing you want to do when you're suffering from heart-related issues. So it really is that simple, but we hear it all the time, but no one's really ever explained it, and I wanted to give you just the simple explanation of how they're linked together. Ladies, this one's kind of for you. High blood pressure is the leading risk factor for death in women in the United States. 200,000 female deaths each year related to this. Okay, that's 5 times the amount of breast cancer deaths in this country. So realize that high blood pressure isn't something that we're just all going to get when we get older. High blood pressure is a risk factor that is a contributor to the heart disease deaths in this country every single year. And a big contributor to high blood pressure is our salt consumption. We need to watch it. 77.9 million Americans have high blood pressure. As we're sitting here right now, 80 million Americans, 1 in 4, have high blood pressure. That's how bad it is now. 1 in 4 people have high blood pressure. And of course, kids who have high sodium diets are twice as likely to develop high blood pressure when they get older. Twice as likely. But yet our kids are eating sodium like you wouldn't believe. In fact, if you actually look at where kids are in this country, 6 to 10-year-olds right now are consuming 2,900 milligrams a day. 11 to 13-year-olds, 3,100, almost 3,200 milligrams a day. 14 to 18-year-olds, over 3,600 milligrams a day. Why is that? Why are they consuming so much salt? Well, there's 10 sources for our children that basically are the major contributors. And guess what? They're the same as they are for adults. Pizza, bread, cold cuts, cured meats, savory snacks, sandwiches, cheese, chicken patties, nuggets, pasta, mixed dishes, Mexican mixed dishes, and of course soups. I can still remember my daughter. I thought she was going to only eat chicken nuggets and French fries for the first 8 years of her life. It seems like the only thing that she would consume. When you look back and see all of this, one of the things now is as an adult and as a parent, you're like, wow, had no idea. The whole idea behind these lunch and learns is to give us the information and knowledge that we need, but realize that these things, while you don't really think about them when the kids are young, you're increasing the chances of them having high blood pressure, which is one of the leading causes of death in women, by 2 times by allowing this to continue. We have to make a change there. So, American Heart Association came out with a couple of interesting facts that I think you should know about. And this is 7 years ago. So this data is actually a little bit old. But in 2010, 1 in 10 adults in the United States died from heart attack or stroke caused by, guess what? Too much salt consumption. So 1 in 10 of the people that died of a heart attack or stroke was directly related to too much salt in the diet. So we literally are talking about the silent killer. We really are talking about the thing that is contributing to their death. And in fact, how big is this? How big of a problem is salt? Well, worldwide, 2.3 million deaths associated every year with excessive salt consumption. That's it. 2.3 million deaths every year worldwide are related to excessive salt consumption, according to the American Heart Association. It's a major issue. Something that we need to be aware of, something that we need to tackle, something that, I'm hoping that these lunch and learns will highlight for you. So what's the takeaway? What have we learned today? Well, simple, excessive amounts of salts are contributing to major health-related issues we suffer with every day, and simply removing the salt shaker won't put a dent in the problem. Folks, the one thing I want to make sure that you're aware of is the whole idea behind these lunch and learns is to give you information, to give you the power, to give you the resources to make informed choices. The one thing I want to make sure that you got from today is we need to pay attention to what we are eating, not only from, the amount of sugar, not only from the amount of calories, but the amount of salt. This is a silent killer. This is something that is contributing to major related issues that we have every single day. Something that we need to keep a close watch on. And if you know somebody that has high blood pressure, you know somebody that has heart disease, you know somebody that suffers with bloating or puffiness or sore joints and things of that nature because of all the inflammation in their body, share with them this webinar. Share with them the information. Get them to understand that salt is a major contributor to the inflammation that they're suffering from. So I hope that helped. If you want to learn more about IDLife and what we have going on, then I would encourage you to attend our Monday night webinars starting at 8:30 Central Time every Monday night with our CEO. And of course, you can always go to myidlifestory.com to learn and see other people just like yourself that are taking this information and applying it and getting some amazing life-changing results that aren't temporary but are long-term, because we're all focused on the 6 inches between our ears, not the 40 inches around our waist. If you want to jump in on our contest, those are still going. We have the Ultimate ID Life Experience contest. If you want to learn more details about what's involved in that, just go to myidlifestory.com, click on the rules and information, and you will get it all right there. In addition to that, we are going to be in Vegas September 15th through the 17th at Planet Hollywood. We would love to have you there. Seems like there's a lot of things going on in Vegas that weekend, but most importantly, there's going to be a health and wellness conference. We're going to have a lot of key speakers, training, information. You want to learn more about how to take care of your health and do so in an appropriate way, then by all means, we'd love to have you there. So September 15th through the 17th in Las Vegas. Next week, we're going to tackle another topic: drugs and supplements, pharmacology versus nutraceuticals. It's, and the reason why I say pharmacology versus nutraceuticals is because that's the belief system most people have. Most people believe that it's binary. Most people believe it's either or. The reality is it's complementary. And that's what we need to understand. So next week is all about understanding the true relationship between the drugs that our doctors are prescribing to us and the nutrients that are on our body, or if they're not there, the supplements that we should take to provide those nutrients, and how these things work together, how they're complementary with one another, and how they're not binary in any way. So you want to learn more about that, then by all means, I would encourage you to plug in next week to learn more about what that means. Until then, again, I'm Mark Bennett on behalf of ID Life. Thanks for being here.